I know you.
After Joss Whedon took over Justice League from Zack Snyder with disastrous outcomes, it effectively ended Snyder's vision of a unified trilogy and acted as the catalyst for the eventual downfall of Snyder's DC Cinematic Universe, also known as the Snyverse. Let's delve into what Snyder's ambitious plans could have been for the two Justice League sequels, as well as for the broader Snyverse. Following the success of Avengers: Infinity War, Thanos quickly emerged as one of the most memorable movie villains of all time. However, when it came to DC's attempt to unite all their heroes against an apparently unstoppable alien foe, to casual fans, it felt like Darkseid was simply a ripoff of Thanos. In reality, it's the other way around. In the early 70s, Marvel writer Jim Starlin was inspired to create his own monstrous villain after reading DC's Fourth World comics featuring Darkseid as the primary antagonist. Starlin's editor encouraged him to emulate Darkseid's appearance, advising him to rip off Darkseid, the really good one. Fast forward to the present, and while we finally got to witness Thanos battling the Avengers on the big screen, we were deprived of seeing the DC character who inspired him, Darkseid, facing off against the Justice League. Although scripts for the two Justice League sequels were never penned, Snyder had at least outlined the story, even if his plans evolved over time. So what would Justice League 2 have entailed? Unlike Infinity War and Endgame, which focused solely on Thanos and his minions as the main antagonists, Justice League Part 2 would have featured multiple villains teaming up. Lex Luthor would assemble his own league, composed of revenge-driven villains introduced in the hero's solo films, such as Dr. Maru from Wonder Woman. In Snyder's envisioned continuation, Orm, Black Manta from Aquaman, and the Riddler from Ben Affleck's solo Batman film team up with Batman and Lois to track down and imprison Lex Luthor once more. However, they encounter the Riddler, who has gone mad after deciphering the anti-life equation for Luthor. The Riddler warns Batman about the catastrophic consequences once Luthor unlocks it. Meanwhile, Darkseid arrives on Earth and forms an alliance with Luthor, providing him with the solution to the anti-life equation. Darkseid seeks to break Superman's spirit rather than kill him, knowing that killing Lois Lane, who is pregnant, will achieve this by making Superman succumb to the anti-life equation. The equation grants its possessor control over others' minds, turning them into obedient slaves. As Superman, Batman, and Lois learn of Darkseid's arrival, Superman confronts him in battle. However, Darkseid swiftly teleports to the Batcave, where Lois is located. Superman races to protect her, but arrives too late as Darkseid vaporizes Lois with his Omega beams. Superman, consumed by grief, falls to his knees, and before he can retaliate, he succumbs to the anti-life equation, allowing Darkseid to control his mind. Batman witnesses this in horror and narrowly escapes. Meanwhile, the Justice League faces attacks from the Legion of Doom. Dr. Maru's chemical gas kills Wonder Woman and the Amazons, while Orm and Black Manta attack Atlantis, killing Aquaman. The story jumps ahead a few years, showing Batman and the surviving members of the Justice League, Flash, Cyborg, and Deathstroke, struggling to survive in a post-apocalyptic Gotham. Snyder originally planned to introduce Green Lantern in the third part, but the studio vetoed the idea, leading to the introduction of Martian Manhunter instead. This clash of creative visions exemplifies the tension between Snyder's desire for darker themes and the studio's preference for humor. Ultimately, Joss Whedon was brought in to rewrite Justice League to align more closely with the studio's vision, emphasizing humor over Snyder's darker tone. Part 3 begins with the League searching for a mother box, while Cyborg plans to utilize it to power a cosmic treadmill in the remnants of the Batcave. The goal is to send the Flash back in time, giving Bruce an advantage against Darkseid and the ability to save Lois, altering the course of history. Reluctantly, they turn to the Joker, who not only knows where to find kryptonite, but also the location of a mother box. The night before the planned mother box heist, the Justice League shares what is essentially a Last Supper, evolving into a confessional, as each member recounts a personal story, anticipating their potential demise the next day. During the Joker's turn, he reveals the story of how he killed Robin, shown through flashbacks. The next day, the Justice League infiltrates one of Darkseid's strongholds, successfully stealing a mother box. However, Superman catches wind of their actions and pursues them. Despite their attempts to use kryptonite against him, Superman eliminates each member one by one, except for the Flash, who races back in time just before Superman reaches him. After the Flash warns Bruce, Bruce sacrifices himself to save Lois, granting Superman more time to reach the Batcave and prevent her demise. Darkseid retreats, and with Batman gone and Superman free from the anti-life equation, he assumes leadership of the Justice League. Superman unites humanity and Earth's armies against Darkseid and his apocalyptic forces. Aquaman, Diana, and even the Green Lantern Corps join the colossal planet-wide battle. In the climax, Lex Luthor sneaks a nuke onto Darkseid's spaceship, detonating it and sacrificing himself. This act kills Darkseid, as Luthor was never aligned with Darkseid's plan to obliterate mankind entirely. The movie concludes by jumping 20 years ahead to the anniversary of Batman's death. Clark and Lois, now with a son named Bruce Kent, who didn't inherit his father's powers, visit the Batcave as he assumes the mantle of the new Batman. It's important to mention that in the early stages of development, Snyder intended for Bruce to be the father of Lois's baby. This subplot mirrored war films where a soldier's wife moves on after his presumed death, finding solace with his best friend, only for the soldier to return unexpectedly alive. This concept closely resembled the love triangle in Pearl Harbor, coincidentally starring Ben Affleck. Darkseid's ability to kill Lois in the cave is due to Batman's distraction during an argument with her. He loves her, but she's in love with Superman. When the Flash eventually jumps through time from the future, he tells Bruce that he's the father, motivating him to sacrifice himself for Lois and their unborn son. However, Warner Brothers scrapped this plan before the filming of Justice League began, as the film suggested Lois was pregnant with Clark's child. Originally, the Snyderverse was intended to comprise Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Snyder's Justice League trilogy, and a side film, which ended up being Suicide Squad. But after Man of Steel, Warner Brothers opted to expand its cinematic universe, giving each character their own trilogy. In the planned Snyderverse, a war erupts between the Amazons and Atlanteans, orchestrated by Reverse Flash. The Flashpoint adaptation, intended for a later film, got fast-tracked for a DC Universe reboot. Warner Brothers' disappointment with Batman vs. Superman led to creative clashes, with Joss Whedon eventually taking over the Justice League. Snyder's departure marked the end of his trilogy and broader cinematic universe plans, leaving fans divided. Henry Cavill's Superman, poised for significant growth, missed out on a compelling arc. And that's that for today's video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.